to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Geordies here, Geordies there, and joined by George, Steve, Alwaleed, Kevin, and Mitch tonight. Stu Penman is in transit and Steve is working. So slightly smaller panel, but same amount of crack for the next hour about Newcastle United. And let's start off on this leaked strip, George. It's been on Twitter this week. Some of the podcasts have chosen to do a bit of a chat about it. Let's pass comment on it. If that's the strip, George, which it looks fairly likely that it might be now with the sponsor on, etc. Yeah. What's your thoughts on it? It's a bit of an 80s throwback, which I quite like.
It is. Me too. The number of things about it. Yeah, I like the overall design and how they've got the sponsor's name in black and white in a sensible size, toned in nicely with the shirt. I love the V-neck, which is a throwback, as you say. But the other thing I like is, in my opinion, they've got the stripes right. There's sometimes people are inclined to mess about with the stripes, either make them too broad or too narrow, and that doesn't go down well with me. They seem to have, again, gone back to almost a Keegan-style shirt with the stripes and put the logo in a nice central. So no, for me it's an excellent strip. In fact, it's so good I might even be inclined to go and buy one when they're available. But I love it, Steve. I really do. And how it was leaked, I don't know, but clearly when they have the launch, we'll see just how right it is. But I suspect it is the one, because there doesn't seem to be any big contradiction about it at all, and I've got no reason to believe it wouldn't be. So for me, great, Steve. That's all I'd say. It's good choice in my opinion.
Steve, are you in agreement? I mean, I think the only thing that really bugs me about Newcastle tops over the years, I've got to be honest, is if they get the stripes wrong. And I'm not particularly a fan of red numbers on the back of our strips. I've been brought up to be black and white, not to have any red. I very rarely wear red as a colour, unless I've got to if I'm playing a part in a film or something. But it's not really for me. I prefer black and white numbers as well, if you can do it in a certain way, shape or form. Apart from a bloody big shield on the back.
I was going to say, not the shield.
Not the shield. But yeah, what's your take, Steve?
Well, I think it looks good. I think it'll look even better with a little star above the badge, which you get when winning the Champions League. So that'll be perfect above the black with where the club badge is. I agree with the points George made about the width of the stripes. I think we've tampered with that over the years. My big fear is that we're ever going to go to a Southampton, which who used to play in red and white stripes, you might remember, but it's got a plain front now, or plain back, I think, isn't it? They've got stripes on the front. Back, yeah. I would hate, and I thought Ashley would always do something like that and really tamper with the strips. But this is a more traditional style. I like it. I'll probably buy one because I didn't get a Fun 88. Well, I did get a Fun 88 one without the Fun 88 bit on that shirt, but I think I'll probably get this one. The point you've made about the red numbers, I'm in favour of the red numbers because. My early days, George will probably vouch for this. I think there were red numbers in the 60s, George, weren't there? When and I think it stands out. I think it's very difficult without putting a panel on the back to get a number that you can see. And I like to see the number visible. It's not always great to see, red and black. It doesn't always work, but I think I would rather have that than have a panel, which makes the shirt look wrong if you don't have a number on, which was the situation with the shield, as we remember.
Yeah, okay. Alwaleed, your take on this new strip, if it is indeed our new strip. It looks very smart, and it looks like that sponsor that we all thought it may well be the sponsor. But what's your take on the actual strip? Are you a strip man, Alwaleed?
Strip man?
Do you like the strip? Are you somebody who likes to purchase strips?
Well, Steve, to be honest, when I get close to Newcastle fans and last years, the care of the shirt, it's for me, I'm thrilled of the care for the shirt. Here in Saudi Arabia, of course, we care for the shirt, but not as much as England, really. This is really impressed me. For me, the leak, I believe it's from Castor, because it was many clicked on Castor website yesterday with the leak happened, and I believe I like the classic shirt of Newcastle, the classic stripes. It's really give the shape of the history of the club. So I like it, but I'm sure this just a primary or not the final shape, of course, when you see it in real, because it looks like computerized, not really a close take. Really, and also we are waiting the leak of the second, and especially the green and white shirt one.
Yeah, lots of rumours that the green and white is going to be predominantly green this time as well. We've seen a few mock-ups of various tops, but also led to believe that the one which most of us seemed to like last season, the purple, dark blue, whatever you want to call it, and yellow top is certainly going to stay next season. Slightly different design, but the same colours, which I think went down well last year. One thing's for certain, Castoria, Kevin. We're not going to be short on tops. They love producing a top. It felt like there was one every month coming out. But yeah, the black and white one, mate. Somebody said, I hope it doesn't get ruined with white socks. I think we're all older generations of new
white socks.
Yeah, well, the white socks used to be an absolute nightmare for us. But what's your thoughts on this, on the actual black and white top, Kevin?
Yeah, I've just had to refresh myself in terms of what it looked like, because I've seen loads of feeds, loads of different other concept kits and whatever, but I like it. I was born in '84, so anything attached to that era named after Kevin Keegan, I'll jump on board with it. But yeah, I like it. I think the marketing strategy with the naming, if it is seller, that's very clever and being bold and big and not right in front of you, but it's just clever marketing from their standpoint. But yeah, I like it. I'm just having a look here. There's on the socks, it looks like there's a white trim on the top of it, which will just incorporate that a little bit. I mean, I'm not against the white socks or whatever. It's just maybe something different if there's a color clash with referees and this and that. But yeah, I really like it. The V-neck, yeah. Again, it's just a classic retro shirt, and I love classic retro shirts. And it's just a nice throwback to when I was born, plus the person that I was named after. It's just it's quite nice for the design team at Castor, which obviously we know that they work very hard with the production of shirts that they produce. So we'll see what comes out of it. Yeah, but again, I like it. We'll see in a couple of days if Mr. Fender will be wearing it in the middle of St. James's Park with local hero blaring out across the stadium. So that'd be a nice little shirt reveal, I think.
Yeah, it would be as well. I see you burned it with crisp, like overdone bacon as well.
I am.
I can't believe it. You live in America. How can you go to a different part of America and get a suntan?
I'm from Atlanta, live in Atlanta, but that's pretty much not landlocked. But I'm down at the beach with my family and things like that. So once you hit that beach and get in the ocean and having a couple of beverages, you sit there and you just forget about it. Yeah, you put suntan lotion on and this and that, but the Florida Atlantic coast winds get you pretty quickly in a hurry. You kind of forget about it. So, and I'm not going to show what I showed on off camera. So. Yeah, it's as you can tell by my face and my arm, but I'm matching the colour of my orange shirt, to be honest.
Have we got one of those stands on the beach, Kevin, but like Jaws, where he's standing at the top ringing the bell and saying get out the water?
No, that's further down the beach. There's no pier, but where I'm at, the last autumn they had 2 hurricanes back to back within a month, so it's trying to get back up on its feet type of thing. So yeah, we're just trying to do a little bit for their economy and come down here and have a good old time.
Well, enjoy it. Enjoy the break. Thanks for coming on your holidays, mate. Very nice of you to do that. Mitch, good to see you, mate. I would call you our strip connoisseur, and that's not because we've seen you budgie smugglers. It's because on the Amigos, you often wear different strips, which you've showcased a lot over the last few years that we've done this program on this platform. So what's your take on it?
Simple. They've kept it simple, and they're always the best for me. Don't fanny on stupid colours and funny little funky designs here and there, and then you end up with things happening that aren't necessarily planned, like that stupid 4 that everybody could see on the front. Once Funny 88 went on what was the in essence a well-designed shirt, but then the sponsor's logo totally brought something out that was never intended to be there. It's obviously got shades of that 80s shirt with a blue star on, which is no bad thing. I was led to believe it was going to be white socks as the standard sock for this strip, but I don't mind that at all. White socks or black socks, why should it matter what colour sock we're playing, really? And my first strip was with white socks, so I've got no problem there. Also, like you, I'm not one for wearing anything red unless I can get away with it. In fact, I don't know if I told the tale that my ex-missus once bought a very expensive red leather 3-piece from Barker and Stonehouse, and then when I come home from work, she'd put white cushions on the bloody thing. So I refused to sit in it. I refused to sit in it, and it became a battle of wills that every day I would be sitting on the floor. I certainly wouldn't be sitting on the settee. And it lasted 3 months. I come home and the cushions had been changed for floral ones, and that I found acceptable. So I would sit in it, and then got called all the pig-headed so-and-sos under the sun. So I know where you're coming from and not wearing red and not wanting to do anything like that. But for me, a white patch with a red number on is iconic. And look no further than my own Malcolm McDonald. If you look at those pictures of him celebrating his hat-trick against Liverpool with Lisa's terrace in the background, that 9 stands out. And I think that's part of our history to have that there. And so I wouldn't be averse to a white patch on the back with a red number on. I know there's only so many colours allowed by the Premier League, isn't there, for numbers as well?
Yeah.
They set, I think it's 4 or 5 different colour options for numbers, and they're the only colours you can use. So you've got to try and find one that then works with your strip, which is sort of, I've always found that a little bit strange, but never mind. So we've got to kind of work it around that. But the strip itself looks good. What our lead says is right. It looks very digital, like it's a digital mock-up. So there may be tweaks and changes before the final thing's actually released. But if that's the way they're going with it, they've not done a bad job.
No, definitely not. Well done to Newcastle United on that, getting lots of things right, as we keep saying on this show, and keep up the good work at St James's Park. That's what I say. I'm going to start with you on this one, Mitch. Disturbing scenes coming out of Prague tonight, and I've got to say, having watched the footage that I've seen from various people's mobile phones, this looks very much like Fiorentina fans provoking West Ham fans. Yep. A group of masked men attacking West Ham fans who are having a leisurely time in Prague before the final, an opportunity for them to win a trophy for the first time in 40 plus years. Is this just a gentle reminder, I guess, for us, as a travelling fan base that, although going away to Europe can be fun, we get the football, we get the opportunity to listen to the Champions League theme, we get an opportunity to visit new cultures, make new friends, and get to see some football that, sadly, in other countries, there is always a minority who are looking to have a go, make a name for themselves, call it what you will. And we always have to, urge our fan base, especially if you go to Europe for the first time, to tread carefully, because not everybody out there is friendly, no matter where you go to. And Prague is a beautiful city. I've been lucky enough to act out there. It's fantastic. And to see that beautiful city being, run riot by masked youths carrying bottles and bars and God knows what else is it. I've got to be honest, it upset me a little bit seeing that.
Well, organised and targeted, and this is it. It was known as for a while as the English disease, and it's very much not now. We've discussed this on a couple of the shows in the last year. This is the second time West Ham have been particularly involved with it, though I don't think it's their fault. This looks very organised. The European, the culture that surrounds European football is very much that it's organised. highly so. And so I think it's a timely reminder for us as we're headed to new venues in Europe for some, or revisit old venues that we've been before, that do it wisely and do it safely and do it with one eye looking over your shoulder, unfortunately, because we will be targeted. English fans always are now. And for something that we've sort of, as a rule, disassociated with the game significantly compared to, good God, in the 80s. We're talking about 80s retro shirts. There's some things in the 80s we certainly wouldn't have back, and that's one of them. I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right to say that for our lads and lasses looking to go abroad. Not everybody's going to welcome you with open arms. And I think it's Holland, it's Italy, in certain parts of Eastern Europe where it's quite rife. And so I think it'll be interesting to see where we get drawn and what adventures we can go on, but doing so safely.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Eric in the chat, I didn't have any scraps. I often refer to my 18 years on the door as the best acting I ever did, Eric, because I wasn't a fighter, mate. I used to talk people down. I used to stop the bad lads getting in by encouraging them to go to somebody else's establishment. So, I was a good talker, mate. I'm a lover, not a fighter, Eric. Certainly not. Kevin, it's not a good look. Look, I've got a lot of mates who are West Ham fans. None of them go and cause trouble. I've also met some of the big lads as well. I know the likes of Cass Pennant, etc. And they're out there. They're out there. I'm sure they're miles away from all of this trouble. But from your perspective, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You don't like to see it. It doesn't happen as much, if at all, at some grounds in the UK, but it's still very much prevalent on the continent.
Yeah, and it's never going to go away, unfortunately. I remember I went into Milan when we tied 2-2, and getting urine thrown at us, rock, flares, all sorts, and you just have to kind of put up with it. You're coming into their home ground, but the big one for me when I went to Feyenoord and parked with some family friends. We parked in their end, and we had to walk from where we parked to the stadium with covered up and everything like that. And that was one of the most scariest experiences I've ever had in my entire life. I was only 17 at the time, but if you took a wrong turn or whatever, they'll lynch you, they'll get you. You know what I mean? But again, like Mitch said, it's the minorities, and it's never going to go away, especially in Italy. With the mafia ties, if you will, and you've got the Eastern Europeans with the ultras. That's their bread and butter, essentially, what they know. That's all they know. We're football lovers. We love the game. But at the same time, we're not going to go there and just for a scrap, and then football gets in the way with it. It's, again, have that cultural experience and watch a bit of football along the way and enjoy it all. And I think if we get drawn into what's happened, I haven't seen any video, I haven't seen anything what's happened, but again, it's just sad from that point of view. They're going there to support their team to see, again, lift a trophy or compete in the game. And again, the very small few are going to spoil it for everybody and make it, again, if it's planned, again, that's even worse, But we've got to be very savvy. We've got to be very clever, like Mitch said, to have a look over your shoulder every once in a while who's following you. The
problem is, Kev, what I've retweeted it. You'll get a chance to see it at some point. I think there's been 30, or Barry's just put it in the chat, so that saves us saying it. But 30 Italians arrested carrying weapons. Hope Allah Hamas fans are safe. Yeah, it wasn't West Ham fans. What do you do if you're sitting having a meal at a restaurant or having a couple of pints in a bar, and suddenly 30 masked men come running in carrying all kinds of weapons and stuff and start attacking you? There's videos of West Ham fans throwing chairs. They're defending themselves, for God's sake. So, it looks as if the police have got this absolutely spot on out there. I will give credit to the Prague police because they seem to have acted quickly, chucked the tear gas in, arrested the culprits and put them down. Let's hope there's no more tonight. I just hope our paper's on full of it tomorrow, blaming the West Ham fans, because I think it would be completely unfair. But, the reason I brought it up on tonight's show is just, you just got to bear it in mind, anybody out there who maybe is going to Europe for the first time. You don't have to be 6'2" and have a skinhead like me to be attacked by idiots, who are looking for trouble.
Totally agree. And it's it's football intelligence essentially from authorities, which may have to be looked at. They've probably got their ear to the ground more than any common fan, even though the common fan knows what's going to happen. Again, another story. I went to Alkmaar, and you just seen we were on the train with the Tottenham lot, the top boys from Tottenham, and they went one way. We just went, oh no, we're going that way. We're going the bar down the other way. Like, we were completely split. And we said, look, we knew what was going on. We knew what was happening. But again, if you've got your head screwed on, you're not going to go and follow that type of stuff. You're not going to go and get involved unnecessarily, which could put yourself in danger, your friends, family, whoever you're with. Sometimes, I might want to take my wife over there and have a nice weekend away and wherever it is. And next thing I know, I could be in a lot of problems just because the shirt that I'm wearing, and that's a scary thought, to be perfectly honest.
Al-Walid, this must seem a bit strange to you. I know you don't live in a bubble, but do you understand why grown men want to have a fight about football?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, but there's your answer, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's UEFA. I think they try to choose different cities, so will be fair for spreading the final would be different city. But some cities should have a standard. Maybe they are not expecting this kind of enthusiasm by the fans. They think some police patrol they can control such a thing. I remember the England and Italy also have some incident as well in the final of Euro 2020. So I think it should be standard when they choose the city. This is important thing, and sometimes these fights happen with just a minority. Maybe just one bar have incident and it will spread to the street and things go. It's like a flame. It can happen in a second, and alcohol it's doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Yeah, 100%. I think alcohol can cause a lot of these issues, but a lot of sentiments in the chat. Let's hope the West Ham fans and families are okay. Steve, you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, mate. Like me, you've been to many away games. You've seen the good in fans. You've also seen the bad. Yeah, and I think the point Mitch is a good warning to Newcastle fans. It's it's 20 odd years since we were involved in Europe, and you've got to be cautious when you're going and be conscious of the environment we've been to. I think we've been to some fantastic places where you got on very well with fans. Our last game was Benfica. I was at that game in Lisbon, and was it 2013, wasn't it? Everybody got on well there. But I've also been to Rome when we played about 1999. We played Roma. And that's the only time I've ever had my ticket taken off is by a guy with a gun, where they escorted the coaches into the ground, so you were well away from their fans. You were kept in an hour after, which seems to be the norm anyway. And there was a guy with a gun taking your tickets as you got off the bus, an armed guy. If I don't know whether it's Prague people or Fiorentina people do, but this is Italy again, and it's. As it was last week, Italy involved in the match. And I think the difficulty with UEFA have is that they decide well in advance of where the games are going to be held. I'll be talking about the neutral ground to you. You've got three lots of fans coming into play, and you cannot know at the beginning of the season who's going to be involved. I think we know the Champions League's at Wembley next year for us to go and win at that. So that would be good. But so that it's planned well in advance where these games are, so it's very difficult to know how to to manage. But I think they are going to have to be more selective and cautious about the places that they choose to play the games. You don't really want. It's good to have a showpiece. I think obviously when we won the Fairs Cup, it was a two-legged final, which I don't think that's been the case in the other two competitions over the years. I think they've always had a one-game final, but the Fairs Cup, as it was in those days, was a two-leg, which means you're looking after your own people there. But
it's just something to be cautious of, and don't go around and try to keep away from the trouble as best you can. Always difficult if you want to be amongst your fans celebrating and partying when you get there.
George, back in the old days, you had these up in front of you on a Monday morning.
Well, I didn't get many football hooligans in front of us, and the only ones I did with any who got in any trouble were from North Shields, from Appleby Park in North Shields. They played
Don't
in the
give their address.
Well, the ground's not there anymore. Houses built on it now, and they got excited and went on the pitch. So on the Monday morning, we had a whole string of them in and out of the court all morning. But to be honest, well, I quite laugh about it more than take it too seriously. Anyway, this is sickening for me. You remember, I'm grown up with the days when away fans weren't separated. We just went in with the fans. We didn't even get separated. Never mind anything else. And I find all of that just more than outrageous. It's sickening. The other thing is for me is that it will not get better in Europe until UEFA grow a pair of balls. Pardon the language, but every opportunity they've had in the last couple of years to take an example of misbehaving fans, including the ultras and other right-wing Nazi groups and all the rest, they haven't taken the grasp of it at all. And even the recent one where the referee got abused, they talk about sanctioning Mourinho and his team. And what are the first thing they do? They're going to look at a replay of the game to see how many mistakes the referee made. How dare they? How dare they? That's almost saying, well, he deserved it. It's like the classical rapist who said, well, look what she was wearing. She was asking for it. That's the kind of thing I equate it with. It really is intolerable. And when UEFA decide to do something seriously about it, we might have a chance of putting it right. But the lads are right. Everywhere we go, Newcastle fans are going to have to be looking over their shoulders, because it's going to be each trip, wherever it is going to be dangerous in many ways. But the other point Kevin made about fan intelligence, that's the one area where we still in the UK, I know our police are getting hammering them in for some of the things they're not doing, but one of the things they've always been good at is football intelligence and helping the country where we're going to sort out the head cases from our side, which kind of takes one side of the equation out. But until UEFA decide to do something about it, it's going to, on the continent, it's going to continue.
Yeah, there's nothing sure about that. Yeah, Kev's on holiday, Barry. I think you knew that anyway. Well said, George, says John. It was good to speak to you again today, John. John's on the mend. It's great to hear.
Yeah, we had a nice chat today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing him soon. Okay, halfway through the show. Anyone's got any questions for Ask George, get them in now. We'll run the ads and we'll come to them next. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website, skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99. Or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10 and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and friends. The class of 84 is on at the Town Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Town Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000. Okay, plenty of Ask George questions coming in. So here we go. And the first one comes all the way from Saudi Arabia, from a guy on the bottom of the panel called Al Walid. And he says, I have a question for George. How did they announce the new shirts in the 1970s?
Well, if you are lucky, you're seeing a picture in the Chronicle. That's the first thing you knew. Yeah, you used to see it then. Otherwise, it just happened. And bear in mind, in those days, very rarely did the shirt change. It was only a rare occasion when the shirt actually changed. I mean, the shirt I wore in the 50s when I went as a schoolboy, we were still wearing in the 60s when I finished. It was exactly the same. So, you know, the strips didn't change that often like they do now. I've got to be brutally honest, Al Walid, just as well, because people didn't have the money in those days. They wouldn't have sold that many because people just didn't have the money. We were still recovering from wartime rationing and so on, and people didn't have the extra money. People saved their money to go to the match. That was the big thing. That was the big thing in those days, Al Walid. So, the strip didn't change very often, and any news about the change of strip, you just relied on the local newspaper, the Evening Chronicle or the Pink or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, is it just they are selling for the fans the shirts back then?
No,
not like they do now. No, not replicas like they do now. Well, you couldn't get them in the shop. Even though there was two sports shops owned by people that work for Newcastle United, Stan Seymour and Frank Brennan, but you couldn't buy them in the shop. But not the replicas. You could find copies and so on, but even they were quite rare.
Okay, cracking on through these questions. Barry says, question for George. My dad always talks about the Rangers semi-final in '69 being really bad. Was that the worst trouble you've seen at a game, George?
Yes, not just at the game, but around the city as well, because they wrecked many restaurants and bars in the city before and after the match. But the trouble in the ground, where they ended up having to clear the pitch by using police dogs, was quite worrying. We hadn't seen anything like that at Newcastle, not in the same way. We had the issues with the infamous so-called riot against Nottingham Forest, which was actually a bunch of kids running from one end of the pitch to the other. If that's a riot, well, it was a riot, but not in my eyes. But the Rangers lot were a riot, and it took good work by the city police and the dogs to clear the pitch. But it's as bad as I've ever seen.
Favourite takeaway meal, says Blue Rhythm Boy.
Chinese usually. King prawn, egg foo young, something like that.
Okay, what's your favourite strip, George, of all time?
Oh, of all time. Well, I've got to go back to a very traditional one that I used to wear, and it was black and white stripes like the one we've got now, and with the red number up on the white patch on the back. So that was kind of my favourite.
All right, and can you also ask George, final question, Gary Milligan, mince and dumplings or steak and dumplings?
Mince and dumplings. I'm an old-fashioned guy. It was interesting because when I first went to my wife's house, when Marge and I were courting, and our mum always used to do mince and dumplings on a Monday tea time, and I used to like going to my tea on a Monday at tea time. The only trouble is Marjorie hated it. She couldn't stand it. And when she opened the front door, as soon as she smelt the mince and dumplings, she slammed the front door. So one of the glass didn't very well drop out. She slammed the door because she couldn't stand mince and dumplings. And then it just got slightly worse because my mum, my mother-in-law was a lovely lady. I can only say that. But once our mum learned that I liked tripe, and she liked tripe, but none of the others did, quite often I'd go for my tea and there'd be a setting at one end of the table for me and her having my tripe, and a setting at the other end of the table for whatever the others were having, including Marjorie. So mince and dumplings, yeah, I'm an old-fashioned guy.
Okay, that's all I've asked George for this week. Yeah, we'll get some funny questions from time to time on that. Okay, ASM, George. We had a letter from ASM. It wasn't quite a letter, but we had it seemed like one. It was like a long scroll on his social media. What did you make of it? Have you had time to read it? He more or less,
I've read it
in an abridged version. He basically was saying thanks for all the support of those who supported him. He does know that there's a few people who don't support him, and that's life. He's had a tough year, both on and off the pitch on a personal level. But all he's ever done is give his best. And in all intents and purposes, to me, it seemed as if he was saying goodbye. But it could also be read in a completely different way. And it could be saying that he's going to knuckle down. So what did you make of it?
Well, at first reading, like you, I was just saying, well, goodbye, ASM. Thank you very much. But then when I read it again and again, I read it about 4 times completely. Like you again, I thought, well, hold on. No, he's just admitting that it wasn't brilliant this year for him. He's had difficulties both on and off the field, which he wished he didn't have. So I was, by the end, to read it for about the 3rd or 4th time, I begin to think like you, that this is him saying, well, it's going to be better next time. And I hope that's what it is, because we're too easily, in my opinion, over the years, have given up on talent and haven't made the effort to fit them into the squad or fit them into the team. I'm hopeful that with the manager we've got now and the coaches we've got now, that they'll work with him and get him back into the team, because such talent is rare. There's no doubt about it. Although I have to say that some of the step overs he does, if I'd been playing left back, he'd be on his backside after the second step over. But never mind, that's another issue. But we have had talented players like, well, off the top of my head, one of my favourites, Hatton Ben Arthur. If we'd had him when we had Bobby Robson as manager, he would have become a hero on Tyneside. But he ended up with a manager like Pardew, who couldn't recognise the difference between the lad going away and working hard and putting a couple of pounds of muscle on and coming and saying he was unfit and he had this fat on and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I hope they work with him. I read it. First time I thought, goodbye. And then after I read it 2 or 3 times, I thought, well, no, he's partly saying it's going to be better next time. So I hope Eddie in the team get him to fit in and take part.
Okay, Steve, lots of people in the chat saying they're bored with the whole ASM saga, a bit tired of the ASM, to be honest. Blue Rhythm Boys is Maxie will stay. How can get more out of him, I think. I agree. Don't give up on him. He's got talent. I think it would be unfair of anyone to be harsh on ASM if he does leave. He was our only hope for the last years of the Ashley era. Without him, there is a chance our takeover wouldn't have happened. And as normal for ASM, it is all about him, says David. Mozza says, it's the cryptic messages that do my head in. And Tom Lynch says, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'd be pleased if ASM stays, but if he goes, then I don't think it's a disaster. I did a poll last night when I was with Ross Gregory with regards to this. And again, I think it was 57% said they wanted him to stay. 43% wanted him to go. Ultimately, it's the same old story with ASM. It splits fans' opinions, Steve.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of that split decision is almost what you imagine is going on in his head. He's split on it. The key expression in the what he said was the word turning point, the phrase turning point, because you can take that either way. He's either in the past felt that he was above everybody else and he could do, and he was an individual, which I think we've seen him doing it. And in the days when Steve Bruce was manager, you could be an individual because the rest were rubbish, and he could stand out. We sometimes relied on him. More often than not, we relied on him. Whereas last season, it was definitely a team job, and it was almost as if he was thinking he could still be the same person. So the turning point from that point of view, if he wants to stay, is that he's got to really knuckle down in the close season, get super fit, not wear as many bandages. I don't know why he needs to have covered his body in bandages like the Invisible Man when he comes on the field. Get super fit and really fit into what the rest of the team ethos is, which we know is high press, he's obviously got better in defending and stuff like that. I still think he'll only be a bit player because I don't think he'll fit in. But if he knuckles down, he can do that. The other side is it's a turning point. I've had a great time at Newcastle, but my future is elsewhere. I'm sure he'll probably revel in France or Spain or Italy or wherever, and be going to do good things over there. So it's very difficult to understand. But I think from my point of view, I'm on the side of if there's a chance, if anybody comes in for him and gives us anywhere between 30 and 40 million, I would snap the hand off and use that to invest on somebody that really does fit into the style we want. We don't necessarily need a left-sided player because we've got Isaacs now playing there and probably dribbling the ball better than ASM has. We've got Gordon that can play there. We've got Elliot Anderson, who looks as though he could do a decent job. And we've been playing when we've had the best team out of a combination of Joe Willock and Joe Linton there. So we're not short of left field players on the current squad, irrespective of who we might buy. So personally, I would think if the offer comes in, leave him. But if he wants to stay, he's either going to be a bit part player. So unless he wants to really knuckle down and fight his way into the team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our lead ASM. People are getting bored. Are you getting bored?
Well, that's a hard question because I like Maximan. I read the letter yesterday, and it was for me an easy cryptic message. It's have a lot of meaning, but the point is, at the beginning, he was like reminding the fans that he came in Newcastle in bad times of Newcastle. So he want to make people remember that he came remember Steve with the Matchday Lives. Remember when before the takeover, when was Maximan was most of what we talk about is Maximan playing? Is he injured? Is he getting back? Should he play in the front? Should be in the side? It was all about Maximan. And now after the takeover, it's become the opposite. We have another players. We have national teams players like Bruno and now Gillinton, Isaac. So this is of course affect the player. So he reminded the players, look, I came to the club when was nobody or Newcastle was very in bad situation, but I came, and that's why it was my choice. And a lot of people question my choice. So he's like kind of don't know the word in English, but it's kind of smooth blaming maybe for the criticism he have now. And also I think he wrote it with his agent as I believe, because this is also kind of at the beginning of the transfer window. It's a message of the agent now around the world know that Maxi is available and his team is not happy. You can understand it in different way. Also a message to Eddie Howe. If Eddie Howe, I think this is up to Eddie Howe. I believe management doesn't like this kind of behavior of media every time, because if you remember, Maximan wrote something at Chelsea game, last game in the season, small letter, but it wasn't that get focused much. So that's why I think this time he got this long message. He want the attention more. He want to send the messages, and I believe it's up to Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, he can't speak to the player and he tell him that you are a big plan of my plan next season. You will play in many games in starting lineup, but it's up to Eddie Howe really. I think Maximan is again a great value to the club. We will need him in the many competition we have next season. But the thing is, I talked to a French journalist. She named Alexandra. I did a show with her. She said she know about Maximan. She said that the tension between the player and the coach and the club make injuries opportunity to happen more. For me, I have big question mark on Maxi injuries, because he have normal injuries. He doesn't have like very dangerous injuries. It's all muscular. It's not that harmful injuries, but he got along away for this kind of should be small injuries. So I think this is just a summary of the situation, and this is I think the third time this happened. Same, it's getting worse than last summer. But of course, last thing I will end up with, I'm sure if Newcastle, they want to show the management that they don't want to act, because they don't want to show that there is an issue between Maxi, so that the other clubs will get it opportunity to get him with low price. Newcastle, if he get the right price for they asking for, I think they will sell him.
Okay, good stuff, Al Walid. Kev, the ASM thing is dragging on. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about this tonight had he not put the message out. And we've already seen a social media post from him at the end of the season with him wearing a black and white strip on a treadmill, putting the work in. It is social media. We live in a world of social media now where players can do this. Callum Wilson's got his own podcast. We've already seen a bit of criticism flying around from his partner in crime on the podcast, who criticised one of his own West Ham teammates. So these things can be beneficial in a lot of ways, but they can also backfire on the individual.
Totally agree. But again, we've been down this road before with him, and this is what he seems to do every window, every transfer window, wherever it comes around. He's out of form, whatever, or he's not playing. He gets a little bit pissy. He throws the toys out the cot a little bit, and he says it's a bit all about me a little bit. It's a bit selfish, essentially, in my opinion. But and now I've read not all of it, but some of it, and it is like a goodbye letter, from what I've seen and how I interpreted it. But I thought about it last night, when I was sitting out on the beach, to be honest, and just think, wouldn't he be fantastic just playing in the Champions League? And just be a Champions League player. And that, just thinking about those types of things, where would he fit if he stays? Would he be an integral part for a Premier League push? Would he be, all that sort of thing? But again, it's, the injury record's not great. And Mitch always says, if the price is right, there's a bit of value there, but at the same time, it's what the other lads have said regarding under the previous management, under the previous regime, he was the integral player in the whole squad, essentially. So he's finding himself a rock and a hard place, which direction his career wants to go. And if he's got external things happening outside of his life, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope he gets through that and moves beyond it. But it depends. Again, I've said this before. What does he want to actually do? What does he want? Does he want to give it his all, or does he want to jump ship and move on and play elsewhere? For me, you love him or hate him. He's one of those ones. He's the maverick of the group, of the team. Like I said, I'll keep him around and play him in a Champions League game, because I think he would do a lot of damage to European opposition in certain games and certain things. But again, like we've said, if the price is right, you can go. So I'm pretty much sitting on the fence with it. I would love him to stay, yes, but if he wants to move on, he can move on. It's football. Again, there's no sentiment in the game of football. If you want to play elsewhere and be happy and dictate what you want to do, fly off to France, do this, do whatever you want to do, fine. But within Eddie's house team, it's structured. It's not my way or the highway, but it's much more subtle than that. But that's how it pretty much is. If you're going to fit in, you're going to fit in, and you're going to do the work to, play 90 minutes or whatever. You've got to roll in this squad, and whatever that role may be, I'm going to tell you what it is. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. We'll find somebody else who wants to do it. So again, I mean, I can sit on the fence either way. I'm not reading into it where I say goodbye or it's I want to work hard. I just don't know what flows through his head half the time. I just really don't know. So yeah. You, Steve.
Yep. Mitch, what's your take on ESM? Not the first time I've asked you this.
No, here we are 4 years on and we're still having the same conversations. And that says it all for me. He's a divisive individual who uses his social media team very well and very cleverly to garner sympathy, to play to the gallery within the fan base who adore him, and therefore garner sympathy before anything's even happened. Even this cryptic message, if that had backfired on him, the easy way out to say, oh well, it's just been lost in translation. And so it's really difficult when you've got a divisive individual like that who knows what he's doing. And I think, in my opinion, the club have cut him plenty slack. I'm aware of 4 or 5 incidents, one more recent than you might think, where the club could have quite happily chucked them under the bus. And they haven't. They've protected them to keep the dressing room happy, to keep the at key times to keep the spirit in the place it was. And I think anything that the club could have done to do that would have probably disrupted things, certainly within the fan base. There'd have been quite a few upset people because so many people seems to be either pro ESM or not, and there's no middle ground. I love the guy when he's on form, and I would love to have that player 8 games out of 10. History has shown we haven't had that. And so I think if the bottom line seems to be if the right bid comes in, he'll be allowed to go. And I think that in some respects allows everybody to move on and look forward to more exciting things coming down the line. It's sad. I love great players. He has the potential to be whatever he wants to be, but yet again, the biggest problem seems to be him.
Question in the chat there. What does Mitch take on the new Qatari bid for Man US takeover?
Well, we're going to depth and me and Stu will probably go into it a bit more in the next professional show. Some of the stuff that we've dug up on it. I mean, it's not a fake bid as such. I think this was Qatar flying a kite to see how far they could get before they got to the difficult questions about where's the money come from. Because I'm sorry, somebody worth 1.7 billion personally, and he claims to suddenly have a foundation which is worth 9 or 10 billion out of the blue to buy Man United, and the first mention of it is on Valentine's Day this year. The special purchase vehicle which was incorporated in Doha with regards to the sale, that was only put together in about 4 weeks ago, when the last deadline, the really final deadline, the final deadline of the final bid, which might be a final bid of whenever, was asked for. This sort of is a very, and Al-Walid might agree here, this is a way of him walking out of the deal with his head held high, without losing face, I have made my final bid. If I don't have anything by Friday, I'm not speaking to anybody ever again. Bang. No, we didn't lose the bidding war. We pulled out. I still think they were invited to come and bid by Rain Group. I think they were invited as a stalk and horse bid to make Ratcliffe put his bid up and to put pressure on Ratcliffe to agree to the Glazers' terms. And I think Qatar saw that as an opportunity to see just how far they could get before the difficult questions came in about, well, was this a state-backed bid or not a state-backed bid? Was this a, where did the difficult questions come in, and what are the difficult questions? Because this process, as we kept hearing, it was not a bid, not a bidding war. It was a process. Whenever a sale of a club is a process, I've got no idea, but that's what we kept being told it was they were being asked for more and more information. And I think that's done Qatar some useful, it's given Qatar a useful insight into where the difficult questions come in and how they may be answered positively or not. Bearing in mind, they've not got anywhere near the full owners and directors test yet, just in this entire process. So it's an absolute farce, and I just think this is a fanfare way of being able to walk away from the table now, but keep their dignity rather than look like they lost a bidding war. I think it would suit Sheikh Jassim very, very well personally to turn around and say, no, we didn't lose a bidding war. We chose to walk away because they wouldn't engage with us. And that keeps, he can walk away and, and in his own mind think, well, we did what we could. But I do think it's far more complicated than people realise.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'm sure we'll discuss more in the professional show, which this weekend will be Saturday at the rather early time of 9:30. Amigos will be 4:30 on Friday. I'm back with Supermac in the morning with Gibbo at 11 o'clock. I have done a little bit of work this week with a few different interviews. Those of you who like your true crime, tune in at 8 o'clock tonight. This is an exclusive. The Essex Boys, which is a well-known story, and not one which has a happy ending, as I'm sure most of you know from the films and the books. Craig Rolfe was the guy driving the car who was shot dead, and Brian Rolfe is his brother, who has never spoken before. Well, he's spoken to me. He's done the podcast, which takes place at 8 o'clock tonight, to promote his new book, The Lost Essex Boy, giving us a real insight into one of the victims of that horrendous crime. We've also done talk about going from the sublime to the celebrity. I've interviewed Yvette Fielding, who still is the youngest ever presenter with Blue Peter. She is best known, I guess, for the Most Haunted series of programmes. She did do I'm a Celebrity with Lady C and Chris Eubank. And she is now a very successful author and a good friend of mine. So we had now as chat, which is coming onto the channel in about a week's time. And last but by no means least, going on the other side of the law, I interviewed undercover cop Neil Woods, who's had a couple of books out. That's his first one there, Good Cop, Bad War. And this guy went undercover. He went from being an ordinary PC on the beat to being an undercover copper. Infiltrating some of the biggest drug gangs in the UK. That is a picture of him there, actually at work, believe it or not. Unbelievable story that. He's also a big supporter of the legalisation of drugs. So we'll learn more about that over the course of the next few weeks with those podcasts. But as always, it's a big thank you to George. Big thanks to Steve Wilkinson. Thanks to Al Waleed. Thanks to Kevin. Thanks to Mitch. Most importantly, thanks to you guys in the chat, as always, for your questions. And I look forward to joining you all in the morning, 11 o'clock with Supermac and Gibbo. Take care, lads. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.